is being given to all the efforts that we're doing in order to resolve these issues.
I must say to you that in fact, that was my impression, that the Secretary had expressed great concern, and he went to a meeting, and he came out and he said, thought there was some possibilities of progress on that. So I do understand that. But if I look at that list and I come back to you, somebody will take my call. I'll be able to reach someone in Egypt. So where would you like the relationship between the United States and Egypt to go? What would you like to see happen between these two countries? What would you say to President Obama if you were seeing him?
I'll tell him that we are very committed to the strategic relationship with the United States. It is very important for the United States to understand that Egypt has been through fundamental change. There is no return to tyranny. There is no return to violation of human rights. Now, no president in Egypt can stay in office more than the tenure. This is history now, and this is a fundamental change. In the past, this is something that did not happen either in Egypt or in the other countries around Egypt. Now we have well-established constitution that regulates the interrelationships. There is a parliament that has been elected through free and fair elections. This parliament has more than 85 Egyptian women. I'm not talking about the structure of religious background, because in Egypt now we say we are all fellow Egyptians. We don't characterize people according to their religious faith. But what has happened now has happened in a very short time. So perhaps the development cannot be felt by a country like the United States, but there is a natural development and a natural growth of communities and of countries.
You want to say to the United States that we're trying to change and that there are positive things happening, and you may not know about them, but we want to prove to you that, while on the one hand, that we want to prove to you that things are changing. I want to ask you about Coptic Christians too. I know.
Please, we don't characterize people according to their religious faith. We say Egyptians.
Okay.
They are all equal. This is very important for you to know, Charlie, that there is no discrimination. Fellow Egyptians have the same rights and the same responsibilities, and one of their rights is that they shouldn't be defined by their religious faith.
احنا في قانون البناء الموحد ده اتعمل.
And very recently there is a law that passed by the parliament to regulate the building of houses of worship for all religious faiths in Egypt. A law that was laid for over 150 years, but now it has been passed by the parliament for all fellow Egyptians. And now you can ask the question.
I have friends who are Coptic Christians, and without singling them out, there have been attacks against them, they believe, because of religion.
Used to be.
دلوقتي لا
Now,
حصل ده من التيار المتطرف.
By the way, that happened by the extremist current that I talked about, the extremist faction that I talked about.
خلال
these extremist factions and elements
30/6
destroyed churches
من سنتين واكتر.
after the 30th of June 2013.
انتهي في نهاية هذا العام
But all of the damaged churches are being restored and refurbished, and by the end of this year they will be as good as new.
Let me ask you about another.
خليني أقول
But
حاجة بس.
let me add something here.
إلى حد
You need to know that in order
وعي مجتمعي
to reach a certain level of
في المساواة بين كل المسلمين
awareness
وعدم التمييز،
within the community to instill the concept of
لكن كدولة
equality,
لا، خلاص.
to instill the concept of not discriminating people because of religious background is something really important. It's going to take time, but it is a process in the making that will
احترام الآخر.
become mature in Egypt, and it will spread out to the other countries to respect the other, to accept the other, not to discriminate because of racial, religious, or dogmatic background.
Let me ask about two initiatives of yours on the foreign policy front. One is that you have developed a better relationship with Israel, correct?
العلاقة مع إسرائيل
The relationship with Israel is pretty good. There is continuous coordination. Don't forget that we have deployed Egyptian troops to fight terrorism in an area that was banned by the security annex of the peace treaty to have forces, and Israelis understood that.
بيبقى فيها تدخل القوى الجوية من إسرائيل.
There are some operations that we need aerial assets and these aerial operations will be overlooking the borders with Israel, and they understand this. Let me say to you that we are now past
محتاجين خطوة جديدة للسلام في
the phase of
المنطقة هذا
insecurity. Now we are in a phase where we need a new piecemeal. This region has already digested the peace treaty that was signed between Egypt and Israel more than 30 years ago.
You also encouraged the Prime Minister of Israel to seek an agreement with the Palestinians. Was he responsive?
وأنا دايما أخاطب مش بس
Yes, absolutely. And I don't only address the Israeli Prime Minister, but I also address the Israeli public opinion. And I tell them that be sure that peace can change the face of this region. And if there is a Palestinian state side by side with the state of Israel, there will be a fundamental change to the region where the region can enjoy security and stability. And I'm speaking to the Israeli public, to the Israeli citizens. I cannot just encourage the Prime Minister or the Israeli government in something as sensitive as this. I have to speak to the public opinion
Indeed,
as well.
you do. As you know, there's some concern that Israel is that many Israeli leaders are no longer looking at a two-state solution, and that's of concern to people who are friends of Israel, like the United States. I think it's one of the points that President has publicly said he wants to make with Prime Minister Netanyahu. Do you worry about that? That the Israeli leadership is no longer interested in a two-state solution?
أعتقد كده.
I believe that
في فرق كبير بين
they believe in a two-state solution, but there is difference
هذا الحل
between convincing people
بفرض هذا
of the significance and importance of peace and imposing the solution on others. I believe that applying pressure will not be as effective or as successful as creating a belief, a conviction that if peace is achieved
للمواطن
and if there is no threat to the security of the Israeli citizen, this will mark a new start and a new phase to the Middle East. we should not forget that the Palestinian issue has been
أسباب العراق
one of the underlying problems and one of the causes of
قدرنا إن إحنا نوجد لها
terrorism
مخرج
in the region. If we can find a way out and a breakthrough of this impasse, I believe this will be
استقرار بشكل
another asset that we can use to ensure stability
بين الدول العربية وإسرائيل
and to open up the relations between Israel and the Arab countries that will be much better than now.
Then Turkey. I read that there's an improvement in communication with the Turkish government, which is getting more involved in Syria than they have before. One, is there an improvement in your relationship?
حتى الآن لسه
Until now, not yet.
Not yet. Are you hopeful?
هل تتمنى
لكن إحنا المنطقة
Let me say
اللي إحنا
something to you. The region where we live has enough conflicts and enough intensities.
فرصة وبنعطي
So
بنعطي الوقت
we are
للآخرين
giving time and opportunity to the others in order to understand the circumstances of the region and the circumstances that are taking place in Egypt.
Then there is Russia. You want Russians to help you with nuclear power. Are they going to do that?
إحنا كنا عايزين نعمل محطة
We want to establish
للطاقة
a power plant, a nuclear power plant, to generate electricity.
على دول عديدة.
It has been an international tender, and we proposed this for many countries,
والحقيقة
and a number of countries presented offers
كان هو أفضل
to us, and as a matter of fact, the Russian offer has been the best offer till now.
Mr. President, thank you for this time. I hope you will allow me to follow up in Egypt with you. You don't have to promise me. Because Egypt is a great country. As you know, there is tension. There are issues that we have spoken about. There are other issues that because of this is a busy time in New York and you have important meetings. And I'm grateful for the time that you've given me to pursue some of these issues with you. So my thanks and I look forward to more conversation.
أنا اللي بشكرك وبشكر
I thank you. I thank you for having me, and I thank your distinguished audience. And I can promise that we will have a follow-on in Egypt. I will be very delighted if we have you in Egypt, and it will be very significant if you go to the streets, meet the Egyptians, the simple people, talk to them, and through you, the American people can hear what the Egyptians have to say. So I'll be waiting for your visit.
Thank you,
to
sir.
Egypt.
Thank you, sir. I accept. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
For more about this program and early episodes, visit us online at pbs.org.